Hey guys, Pete here. Today I'm going to do a Better Call Saul Season 5 Episode 7 preview. AMC has released a short trailer, which I'll break down scene by scene, and there's also a sneak peek clip. Before we get into that, this will be your spoiler warning. In these videos, I talk about everything that's happened in Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad up until this point. I also look at all the extra stuff that's out there in the media. If you don't like that kind of stuff, this video won't be for you. So make sure you subscribe before you leave though, because I do cover Better Call Saul and do recaps each week, and I'll be doing that all the way through to the end of the series at the end of Season 6. Episode 7 of Season 5 is titled JMM. It seems like that would be a reference to the bag that Kim gave to Jimmy that had his initials on it. It was written by Allison Tatlock, who wrote number 502, 50% off earlier this season, and Something Stupid back in Season 4, which was the episode where we had a big time jump as Jimmy was working his way through PPD. It's directed by Melissa Bernstein, which I thought might be a mistake when I saw that on the internet, because she's long been a producer / executive producer for Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, but she's never been a director. If you ever watch the BTS videos or listen to the Insider podcast, you'll know who she is and that she plays a crucial role in the Breaking Bad universe. So it's pretty interesting that she's going to have her first go in the director's chair. The episode description reads, Jimmy and Kim build a legal firewall with the help of Huell. Kim sets things straight with her clients as Jimmy is compromised by his. Gus calms troubled waters in service of his plot to build an empire. Mike does damage control. This is a pretty exciting trailer too, if not for any other reason that all the major characters show up in it. Everybody's in this. We finally got to the point where both sides of the story are in a collision course for each other. Jimmy and Kim are still together. Jimmy works for Lalo, who was locked up by a plan that Mike set in motion. Gus and Mike are getting their information about the Salamancas from Nacho, who is forced to play both sides, and it looks like they're going to use that information to put pressure on Jimmy in order to make him do what they want when it comes to representing Lalo. Finally, all the characters are involved in the primary story, which all revolves around Jimmy. The trailer opens with Nacho waiting for Mike. We see them have a conversation in one of those out-of-the-way locations that they like to use. Mike says to him, "What are you holding out?" I don't really know what he's talking about here. We presume that this is the conversation that Mike agreed to in the last episode when he was talking to Nacho. That should be in relation to Nacho wanting to get his father, who's an innocent, out of harm's way. But this "what are you holding out?" that might have something to do with Lalo or the Salamanca family that he's not letting on. You know, Mike has a sense that there's more to the story. We see Lalo in his bunk in a jail cell. Since he had a handgun under the front seat of his car, you know, that seemed pretty obvious that he would end up there. Like I said in my last video though, I really doubt this will be the end of his story, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. After that, we see Kim and Rich talking to Kevin in his office. Kim says, "We owe you the truth." Later in the trailer, we see a little bit more of this. There's a shot of Kevin's face reflected in a photo of him and his dad, and that's followed with a shot of Kim and Rich outside the office. The sneak peek scene that AMC released shows Kim apologizing to Kevin with Rich and doing damage control to try to keep the arrangement in place. She says when Mesa Verde asked her to be their lawyer, that was the best day of her professional life. She says that yesterday, referring to Jimmy's stunt, was the worst day of her professional life. I imagine they're going to take her back, but there may be more going on behind the scenes, because there may be some fallout between her and Rich based on what we see. Obviously, he suspected she was in cahoots with Jimmy. They pulled it off in a way that she didn't actually know what he was going to do, but that still may be a problem as far as Rich is concerned. And honestly, I don't know where else they're going with that, so I feel like something has to happen as that shakes out. We see Jimmy at home in his kitchen making orange juice, and we hear Mike on the phone say, "I need a word." So the implication here is that Mike's reaching out on behalf of Gus because he found out that Jimmy is Lalo's lawyer. We see Howard. He runs into Jimmy face to face at the courthouse and says, "So have you thought any more about the job?" There's not much indication of what's going on here, but I expect that we'll have some kind of exchange where he makes his intentions known, why he wants Jimmy at this time, what role he sees him playing. I say that because I think this reminds me of the trailer that was out pre-season where Jimmy says, "You don't know what I'm capable of." Either way, we know Jimmy's not going to probably take a job at HHM, but there should be some sort of conclusion to this whole situation in the near future. Then we see Huell sitting in the public records office. Now, marriage licenses are public records. We see a pamphlet behind him that says what to do if you lose your birth certificate. The theory I saw people putting out there was that this line, Jimmy and Kim build a legal firewall with the help from Huell, is about Huell being the witness at their wedding. Basically, that they'll get married right away. That is a big question that's on everyone's mind, obviously. I'm not really sure what else he could be up to. It says public records right on the door. It looks like it might say something about marriage license on the sign in the hallway, so I feel pretty certain that this has something to do with them getting married. I'm liking his jacket here. His lapels are bedazzled, which is a nice touch. After that, we see Jimmy outside a building on the phone, probably the same building where Huell is, or the courthouse, which is all maybe the same building for what it's worth. He's probably talking to Nacho. He says, "Who got picked up this time?" Jimmy's asking about what they need him for because he took care of the Crazy 8 situation for them earlier in the season, and he's about to find out that Lalo got locked up. There's a shot of Gus somewhere public with a desk sign for Los Pollos Hermanos with his name and title on it. It's hard to say where this is. Later, we see him closing a door in what looks like a hotel room. We see the Do Not Disturb sign hanging on the door handle with the image of a steer. I don't know if any of that is a big clue to where he is, but it said he'd be calming troubled waters in service of his plot to build an empire, which could be about Los Pollos or it could be about his drug business. After that, we get a shot of Kim and Jimmy having a conversation at a table outside somewhere. She says to him, "I just want to know what's going on." This is interesting because it seems like she's saying that she wants to know what Jimmy does as Saul. If you think about the progression of things, as he's been doing stuff as Saul, he's been keeping her in the dark. She didn't know about the burner phones until she knew about them. He never explained what happened on that day when he met Lalo, and so on. If they're married, she can't be compelled to testify against him, so she may be laying ground rules here in the interest of not being surprised about what he's into. Just like saying, "Look, I understand you're going to be this guy Saul and you're going to do what you're going to do, but I need to know what's going on because we're in a relationship." This opens the door to her finding out about his involvement with the cartel, though, and that could have repercussions in a couple of ways. She could try to stop him, and the reality is, even if we didn't know who he was in Breaking Bad, we know that once you're in, you're in. Now that the cartel is using him, he's not going to get away from it. Her knowing also means that she herself could be a loose end for them. But that's just a guess of what's going on here, so we'll just have to wait and see. We have Mike visiting Jimmy at home. He's at his place, giving him documents in preparation for whatever they have planned. He says this is everything you need to do your job, which to me means that Gus has direction for how he wants Jimmy to proceed in representing Lalo. There's a shot of Jimmy in the courthouse sort of peeking around a corner that makes for a funny looking shot. And then we see Jimmy and Kim in front of what looks like a courtroom. It looks like they're waiting for a judge to enter the room, but it's not exactly clear what's going on. Could be related to them getting married, but it's also followed with a shot of Lalo being brought into a courtroom in shackles. He's still wearing his jumpsuit, so we can guess he was transported straight from the jail to make this appearance. Could be a bail hearing or an arraignment hearing where the judge formally states his charges. He enters his plea. Can't tell, but we do hear the bailiff say, "All rise," and then the trailer ends with a long shot of Mike and Nacho's meeting with their cars in the background. So a lot of interesting stuff here, mostly around the fact that everyone's getting together. The big question on everyone's minds is, why did Kim propose that they get married? Will that actually happen? I'm not going to speculate too much about why she did what she did, because I already talked about that some in the previous video, but also because I don't think we really know yet. It was set up as a cliffhanger. The short answer is she should leave Jimmy, because being with him is not good for her, but she's in love with him, so that's not going to happen. People are really jumping forward with this idea that the marriage is to insulate her from having to testify against Jimmy if something goes wrong and he gets in trouble. That would be a legal firewall, so there's probably something to that. I just think that if you talk about that too much, you sort of miss the point that Kim also did this because she wants to stay together with Jimmy. Unless she's scamming him, she's actually doubling down on the relationship and staying together. One of the things to keep in mind is that what Jimmy did to her, if it didn't involve her, I mean, it was a perfect example of part of the reason that she's attracted to him in the first place. So I'll just leave that there for now because this video is going to turn out to be really long and it's just a preview. So we'll have more to talk about in the recap of the next episode. The other really interesting thing will be to see how Jimmy gets caught up in this situation. What is Lalo going to do? He's going to be locked up. He's going to have a plan to get out. Gus is going to be trying to undermine that. I'm not really sure, but the thing I feel sure about is that there's more to Lalo's story. I don't think that seeing him get arrested in the last episode was the end of his making trouble for Gus and the cartel. We'll have a lot better of an idea of what he's trying to do and how Gus is trying to stop him. But in the timeline, 4 years from now, when Walt and Jesse take Saul out at gunpoint into the desert, Saul is afraid that Lalo is the person that put them up to it. He tries to sell out Nacho in that conversation. So I don't think what's happening now is what he's talking about then. I think there's still more to tell. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. How excited are you that both the lawyer story and the cartel story is all together as one? We're in the final stretch of this season, so how do you want to see things end up? Will Kim and Jimmy get married? And just in general, what do you want to see happen? Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thanks for watching. I will talk to you soon.